The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted, among other things, the importance of digital transformation. Organizations that were further along on their digital transformation journey tended to do better in those early disruptive days. Well, today, life sciences organizations are writing a new chapter in the chronicles of transformation thanks to artificial intelligence. Now, with the average cost of developing a new drug at about $2.3 billion, streamlining and automating the clinical trial process is a perfect use case for AI. Hi, everybody. My name is Jim Malone. I'm a senior contributing editor with CIO Marketing Services. Welcome to this webcast brought to you by Modus Create and featuring a guest panel, including a guest speaker from IDC. Today, we're going to explore how artificial intelligence can transform the clinical trial process using technologies and best practices like AI-driven automation and AI-backed intelligent application development. We'll hear how AI-enhanced clinical trial processes can speed time to market, boost productivity, and ensure higher accuracy in clinical trials. It's a great session, a great time. So without further ado, let's meet our panelists. First up, let's say hello to Dr. Namita Lamai, who is Research VP for Life Sciences Research and Development Strategy and Technology at IDC. Hi, Namita. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about your work at IDC.
Hi, Jim. Good morning. So as indicated, I lead Life Sciences R&D Strategy and Technology. I also represent Healthcare and Life Sciences on our AI Council and lead our Futurescape, Life Sciences Futurescape predictions. I'm very passionate about the interplay of data, technology, analytics, and of course goes without saying AI in transforming the way the life sciences industry operates. Having worked for about 38 years before that in the life sciences industry, I think it became agonizingly evident that we need to change our modus operandi and start leveraging these capabilities.
Thanks so much. Now let's give a big welcome to Greg Sterndale, who's Vice President, Digital Strategy and Practice Lead with Modus Create, our sponsor. Hey, Greg, welcome. Thanks for being with us. Tell us a little bit about Modus Create and your work there.
Hey, thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. Sure. So Modus Create is a digital product engineering and strategy consulting company. The reason for being for my digital strategy practice is to help clients make better decisions when they're making investments in innovation. Personally, I'm a software engineer by trade. I've been working with artificial intelligence for almost 20 years, building intelligent applications. Today, my job at Modus is twofold. First, it's to stay abreast of new technologies and trends to help inform our service offerings. And second, to work with our clients and prospective clients to help shape engagements.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Greg. Really looking forward to your perspective today. So thanks for being with us. And now let's give a big welcome to Abid Rahman, who's Senior Vice President for Innovation with Eversana. Hey, Abid, delighted you can join us. Tell us a little bit about Eversana and your role there.
Thanks, Jim. Nice to be here. Eversana is a leading provider of services to the life sciences industry. And we provide almost every service that you can imagine for the pharmaceutical industry, whether it's marketing services or medical affairs, HEOR, patient support and services as well. My role at Eversana is, as you mentioned, I'm the Senior Vice President of Innovation. It really comes down to figuring out how technology is relevant in the pharmaceutical industry. And of course, when you talk about technology, it's impossible these days to not talk about AI. We have been working in the AI space for a very, very long time as well, grounded in real life challenges in the pharmaceutical industry and how to actually solve them. And it's not just about AI, right? So it's technology is evolving very, very quickly, and it's keeping up the pace of how things are evolving and coming up with the right solutions to solve real business problems. And so that's really our focus.
Excellent. Thanks so much. We're delighted you could join us and really looking forward to your commentary today as well. Now, before we get started, I just want to quickly point out the additional resources section of your player for our viewers. There you can find lots of great information that will allow you to do a deep dive on the points we're going to cover today during our presentation and discussion. You can download those assets and share with clients, prospects, colleagues, etc. and really get well informed and help you accelerate your AI or modernization transformation journey. Lots of great information there. Also, you can find out how to get in touch with our panel through that additional resources section. So do take advantage of that to really get the most rich experience from today. And finally, a big thanks to our sponsor, Modus Create, for making today's event possible. Now, today we're going to hear first from Namita Lamine with IDC and kind of a market overview. And then we'll have a fireside chat session where we've got some great questions queued up for our panelists. So lots to cover. Let's get started. And to do that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Namita. Namita, over to you.
Thanks so much, Jim. Hi, everyone. What I'm going to be speaking about today is really about designing AI-based solutions to transform the life sciences industry. And I think we are actually at a tipping point in human evolution, a tipping point for the life sciences industry. I think AI is pretty much redefining the art of the possible for this industry. We've seen how the industry has operated through manual processes, through legacy solutions, and there has been an aching ask to change the way we operate. And while we say AI is super exciting, everyone's gung-ho about going down the AI path. I'm starting with a quote by Kathy O'Neill, and I love the name of her book, the author of Weapons of Math Destruction, because AI is at the end of the day all about math, right? But AI is a black box that defies human understanding, making it difficult to trust and adopt. Why am I starting with a negative angle for this presentation? And I think what I'd like to call out is, as an industry, we are in a somewhat mixed state. You do see people who are still kind of skeptical about bias, about risk, about hallucinations. But one thing that is very clear, we really cannot sit at the sidelines waiting for someone else to run the litmus test on what works with AI. Look at what's happening in the industry now. I think, look at the regulators, right? They're the strictest about compliance. And even they are encouraging this journey across the globe. That is a very, very positive sign. I think the other thing to take note of, yes, one understands that the life sciences industry is all about patients, and hence, being cautious, being tech averse has been not unjustified. It's been a scary journey. You want to ensure patient safety, you're dealing with patients' lives, you want to ensure regulatory compliance. All of these things weigh down upon us. But the truth is that despite everything, the life sciences industry is embracing the AI journey like never before. And as you can see, it's being disrupted. It's being disrupted massively. And yet, with open arms, this industry is going down the AI path. If you look at some of the trends that the industry that are impacting this industry today, I think one of the very, very interesting observations that I would like to emphasize is, yes, life sciences has always been a very patient-centric industry, but it is evolving to become a data-centric industry. You see companies even relabeling themselves as data sciences organizations, as pharmas and CROs are doing that. What does that tell you? Because AI is nothing without the data. Data is everything for this industry, for really being able to implement AI and sourcing that data, implementing data governance strategies. All of that becomes a very, very, very critical piece for this industry. The data foundation must be very strong to prepare for AI, GenAI implementation. If you're not there, don't talk about AI. It's clinical trial data, real world data coming in from sensors and wearables. It's data that's flowing in from everywhere. So really being able to integrate the data, driving data interoperability, Obviously, ensuring, as we said, data readiness, data quality, and data governance, mitigating data debt, ensuring that you have the right partnerships in place to be able to leverage and build that data narrative that you want so that you can really build out intelligence. And even addressing evolving regulations like data sovereignty, data privacy regulations are evolving every day. Responsible AI frameworks. At the end of the day, we are all patients. You're a patient, I'm a patient. We are taking medications, we are taking drugs, right? How do I know that whether you have used AI in your solution or not? In fact, the WHO has actually strongly endorsed the fact that patients should be informed if AI is being used in developing on any of the solutions. Every organization today is investing in building responsible AI frameworks where you have trust, where you have explainability, because a single breach of trust can really cost a company its credibility. It can cost patients' lives. Explainability, when you're seeing a certain model performing in a certain way or giving you a guidance. So, for example, if you're talking about an app which is going to drive dosing strategy, how was that arrived at? The ability to explain that is so crucial, both to regulators and at the end of the day, as a consumer, as a patient, I need to know. Then the agentification of AI, that's the hottest word today in the industry. AI agents are coming up, AI platforms and AI agents, which are basically going to work together and hopefully not clash at some point of time, but really coming together as agent swarms to make life easier for the end user, to really translate this process. Ethics is so important when we're dealing with patients, right? So how do you establish, you're hearing terms like digital ethicists, which did not even exist 2 years ago. So, and it's important to remember that this is not one function. You can't say ethics is responsible about it for ensuring ethics in an organization. It's really key players, key stakeholders across the organization coming together to drive that ethical strategy and embedding it into every solution that is being provided to the consumer, the patient. AI identity threat. It's a big thing in the industry today. Am I going to lose my job? Is AI going to replace me? Will I still be in control? And organizations are developing multi-tiered strategies because it's not only about a certain age group, it is about addressing different strata of employee populations and building in the confidence and trust that it is really about the human in the loop. It's about augmenting humans and not just replacing them. Another thing that the industry is obviously investing in is skill development, change management, because if you want to stay valuable, if you want to stay available in the industry, you need to upskill. And I think that's a realization. So from data management to data sciences. And what is actually very important is AI is obviously great. GenAI has played a very different role. It has actually, while machine learning and that piece really brought about the ability to predict outcomes, GenAI has been able to create outcomes to transform experiences. And that is going to be a crucial thing. It's also about the democratization. You don't need to be a data scientist to use ChatGPT, right? So the access, natural language way of engaging with this has completely been transformative for the industry. And I'm not saying that this doesn't come without risks or challenges. They are there. But it is important to remember, you could ask a question, what about bias? For sure, it's there. Ask me when clinical trials were run by humans, was there no element of bias? So these things need to be addressed and addressed with complete caution, putting the right guardrails in place. Then the shift, right? Use case prioritization. I think if you ask me what is the single biggest challenge for the industry right now is managing expectations within the organization and prioritizing the right use cases. So building out those frameworks, identifying which use cases will actually drive sustainable business value are going to be, and that's also where the IT partner can play a critical role in guiding the organization to build that use case prioritization framework. Cost is a big thing, and that cannot be ignored. If you go back to 2017, the cost of a transformer was what, $900. If you look at the cost today for training GPT-4, it's $780 million. For training Gemini Ultra, it's around $900 million, as reported by Stanford in their AI Index report. So, and obviously those costs are translating to the end user as well. So how do you manage the balance between these costs, the evolving risks, and yet ensure that you can kind of leverage this opportunity optimally is where the industry is trying to figure out the fine line for this. But the potential for really transforming the productivity right now using AI is very, very significant. One is seeing the use of enterprise AI platforms and a whole set of AI-infused apps. Apps are going to be the real transformational space to make this more consumable and to build out specific use cases in a way that the industry can leverage them optimally. And then obviously the AI infrastructure, which is a huge challenge as well. So one more thing that is kind of important to remember, that GenAI created a significant hype in the industry, but it's not just about the GenAI narrative. While GenAI is enormously impactful, the industry is recognizing that it all comes together across the AI narrative, not just GenAI. And you can see it right here, right? If you're looking at this slide, what you see over here is the green bar represents predictive AI. The light blue bar represents interpretive AI, and the dark blue one represents GenAI. And guess where the maximum spend is happening today? We'll go right to the top, and it is leading by far. Predictive AI is leading the way, followed by interpretive AI. So just to reinforce the point that I was making earlier, all of AI is coming together, and it's not that predictive or interpretive AI have lost their sheen. They're still very much leading the way. But a thing that I'd like to call out, IDC just ran the Life Sciences GenAI survey, and we saw that 2/3 of the industry is going to increase their spend on GenAI in 2025, with about 40% saying they would increase it by 10 to 25%, and 20% saying they would increase it by over 25% compared to the last year. So what does this tell you? There is, the industry is treading cautiously. It is still embracing the overall AI narrative, but it is staying focused on recognizing the promise that GenAI has to offer. And then this is an interesting look. Have a look at the slide. We were kind of trying to analyze, the AI piece is going to be really consumable through apps. And then we try to look at what were the factors that are limiting the development of custom AI apps versus third-party AI apps. And while there are numerous factors to look at here, what I'd like to highlight is the cost factor. So when you're looking at costs, and again, the light blue bar at the on the upper level is really referring to the third-party apps, versus the dark blue bar, which is referring to the kind of the custom AI apps. And the cost implications of third-party apps are clearly much higher. So I think the way the industry would be headed, while undoubtedly in some cases, third-party apps have their own value and promise, the ability to develop more cost-effective, customized apps is going to be very significant for this industry. So what are some of the recommendations that we have for the industry? Yes, invest in AI. That is the future. This is a tipping point. And do not stand on the sidelines. Goes without saying that while you're stepping into the AI journey, implement the right governance models, establish the right responsible AI frameworks. That's a must. Prioritize high-value use cases. And what are some of the high-value use cases? Actually, if you look at it right now, clinical trial optimization is top of mind for the industry. We have spent enough of money, enough of dollars, and enough of years trying to get that trial design right. And this is an excellent opportunity to leverage that. Content management, the ability of GenAI to actually generate content, goes without saying. That's being tapped into big time. Patient identification, clinical trial recruitment, finding patients for rare diseases, healthcare provider HCP targeting. are all use cases. I think where the industry's focus is right now is on use cases that are low risk, which will significantly impact and enhance productivity. That's where the focus is right now. On the long term, it will be on use cases which would be more disruptive, like discovery and other drug discovery and others. Leverage a mix of custom and third-party AI apps. Custom apps would definitely help you manage costs. They would help you build out solutions for very niche use cases, which are specific to your needs. Whereas third-party apps, well, if you don't have the data, you definitely need to look at third-party apps. And lastly, partner with dedicated vendors who can actually provide you with expertise, who can guide you on your strategy and ensure compliance while helping you navigate the AI journey. So these are some of the recommendations that we would put forth to help you across your life sciences AI journey.
Thanks, Namita. I want to get our panelists involved now, so invite Greg and Abid into the conversation. Let's start with you, Greg. I'd really like to get the Modus Create perspective on the information Namita put forth. Lots of great information on data, pick the right use cases, ethical AI, so much to dig into. Greg, it's interesting too, if you follow AI in the press these days, it's like an overnight sensation. But listening to your background, Namita's background, Abid's background, you guys have been working on this for decades, so it's nothing new. It's just accelerated. The pace of change is incredible. So with that kind of backdrop, Greg, thinking about what Namita reported, let's start with you. What's the Modus perspective on this?
Yeah, the demand for innovation with AI it's here. It's real, though I think Gen AI is a bit overhyped right now. There are some very real applications that we're seeing our customers implement. Most of the conversations with our clients today include AI, especially those clients that are in life sciences, whether it's using generative and or discriminative predictive models, it's incorporated. And today, I think with part of our job at Modus is to teach them, I guess, as Namita was saying, the art of the possible with AI. Clients are learning about new opportunities and tools. It's our job to help them do that. And I think in life sciences, the demand that we're seeing and all the innovation that we're seeing today is due in part to the abundance of data that's available in the industry, and really a myriad of opportunities are there to improve upon existing complex and or manual processes that are really expensive and time consuming. So as a consulting partner for life sciences organizations, we've made changes and adapted our service delivery model. So now today, our cross-functional digital product development teams include data scientists and AI engineers as a standard.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying I couldn't agree more with Greg. I think he brought out some very interesting points, but also what was equally interesting is he called out how, as an ID consulting partner, how they are redesigning their own processes and strategies internally. I think that is something to weigh in upon, because it has to go both ways to really make this happen. And the big piece about how both parties are re-architecting their journeys is only going to drive success. It's not going to be a one-way story.
Thanks, Namita. Now, Greg, during her presentation and my introduction, we mentioned clinical trials and some of the challenges there, but some of the promising applications and use cases for AI vis-a-vis clinical trials. Talk to us about some of the most common challenges in your experience that can slow down clinical trials, and talk about just in general the application of AI here.
Yeah, sure. So from what we hear from our pharmaceutical and clinical research organization clients, some of the top challenges in clinical development are, certainly patient safety is number one. doing trial design, where you're coming up with a country strategy and site strategy within those selected countries, and then doing recruiting across all those sites is important and challenging. Retention of patients is another challenge. And then dealing with the complexity of creating trial protocols and study design work, things like inclusion criteria and endpoints that align with clinical goals. Those are some of the big challenges that we hear about. And all of those that I mentioned are things that can be addressed, at least in part, using AI, whether it's doing things like real-time signal processing with patient-worn sensors, for example, to help classify their state, the state of their health, and monitor for adverse effects. Or it could be using an agentic framework that Namita had mentioned earlier to collaboratively solve really complex problems like trial design using reinforcement learning. Or it might be feeding trial protocols to large language models to extract some structured data and derive some insights.
Thanks, Greg. Namita, I'm going to read a quote from a report that your team at IDC put together. It is written that life sciences organizations will leverage GenAI, transforming business processes and scaling efficiencies exponentially. What can be automated will be automated. Digital transformation will continue to lead the way, ensuring resiliency and fueling innovation and growth. So great quote. Talk to us about the link or the evolution from, digital transformation to where we are today, what IDC has called the era of AI.
Thank you, Jim. I genuinely believe in that statement that what can be automated will be automated, and AI is going to be the biggest enabler to make that happen. I think we are moving, like it or not, from a system of record to a system of insights, a system of intelligence. We are moving from being reactive to proactive. We are moving from a situation where we no longer want to have information. It's really a platform of intelligence that's being created in this day and age. And AI is going to make this happen. One may say, are you are you a zealot? Are you being are you overemphasizing the AI narrative? But, right now the situation is such that you can't overemphasize it. The situation is such that the industry is all in. Yes, with guardrails. Yes, with responsible frameworks and ethics councils. But there is so much of an opportunity. I think Greg called out, if you look at, the way our industry is operated, in a very structured, in a very cautious, and pacing itself out, taking measured steps. Understandably, you can't take risks with patients. But somewhere it is seeing that this can change. Whether you talk about the pace at which, to Greg's point, the pace at which you can identify and recruit patients, the way I have authored IND documents in my past life. You're seeing, and in my life, in my whole mind, it was like, why do we spend so much time on some stuff like this? I'm giving you simple examples, or simply the ability to look at data management. Today, you're seeing GenAI solutions, which are, you can just talk to your data and say, find me a patient cohort or find me a data set that meets my requirements, right? There are companies that are coming up. We built out a GenAI use case taxonomy at IDC, which is basically a repository of use cases that have actually been deployed, GenAI use cases, and who's deployed them. And when we started working on that report, I told my team, I said, guys, we'll have to struggle to find use cases. By the time we ended the report, we said, who do we need to delete? Because that shows you the speed at which both technology providers, data providers, and the life sciences industry. I think the last thing I would say over here is it's an ecosystem play. It's multiple pieces coming together. It's the data, it's the AI, it's the guardrails for data security and privacy, the compliance aspects. But I really feel that um, that that AI is getting embedded into the digital transformation process today. It's not about digital transformation and AI. These aren't two separate stories. It's an integrated narrative. And going back to Greg's point about how IT organizations are re-architecting themselves to make this an integral part of their digital transformation strategy is where the industry is transforming.
Yeah, I can piggyback on that, Namita. I think that the term digital transformation is really broad and kind of vague. But if we define it as like the process by which a company integrates technology into all aspects of its operations, then in my opinion, I think AI is just a newly available set of tools and techniques that enable, to borrow your term, transformation. So I don't want to minimize the significance of AI. I think you did a great job of talking about all the applications and the value of it, because it can be a particularly impactful tool, which at the end of the day, that's the whole point of digital transformation, is to create some kind of real business impact.
Yeah, and if I can just add on very quickly to what Greg said, I think the other place where IT partners are playing really an important role is while the technology play is evolving, I think business process reinvention, business process reengineering, and also strategizing are there any places, any areas, where we could have gained value, which we have not even considered? I think that's what I meant by saying opening up the art of the possible. So it's digital transformation complemented by business process reengineering, which is really going to open up that sustainable business value.
I want to stick with the topic of automation that we started with that question, although great information and insights on digital transformation aspect of it. But Avid, speaking of automation, that was one of the dimensions encompassed in Modus' work with your organization, Eversana. Dive into the relevant parts of that engagement for us, would you? And let's start with you, Avid, but I'd love to hear from you as well, Greg, as we go through this.
Yeah. So, going back a little bit, kind of the background, as we looked at the transformation that's happening with AI, and we've been in the AI space for more than a decade at this point in the pharma space. And we looked at in every way AI can help optimize the current processes and add efficiency and value and solve some real life challenges. So there are, of course, a lot of operational challenges. There are a lot of other types of challenges as well, and some of those are solvable with AI. Some of those are solvable through automation, through technology, not necessarily AI related. And then sometimes it's a combination of those things. So one of the things that is a huge bottleneck when it comes to being able to deliver content on time in the life sciences space is the MLR process. It's the medical, legal, regulatory process that every piece of content has to go through before it can be made publicly available. And the process is, understandably time consuming, because it's very important that every piece of content is reviewed, and we have to make sure that there's nothing that should not be said is ever said. And because of the process that we have to go through, there are usually many rounds, and sometimes it takes weeks, sometimes months, depending on how much content has to be approved. So one of the things that we wanted to tackle early on, even before GenAI, was, can we use AI to somehow automate this entire process? The challenge in the past was, because most of the AI solutions in the past, the traditional NLP-based solutions, were oftentimes keyword-based. And keyword-based solutions can work in many different ways, but it's not very good at understanding context. And when it comes to large amount of content, context is very important. Any sort of language that's delivered, whether it's for the patient side or on the HCP side, the context of all of those different things, sometimes there are tiny nuances that changes the meanings of things. And keyword-based NLP is not very good at those types of things. And that's where large language models come in. Because large language models or LLMs have been trained on vast amount of data, vast amount of language, it does very good job of understanding context and differentiating various contexts, right? So, and when ChatGPT came out, even before that, with the previous earlier models like BERT, for example, LLMs, that was one of the big focus of LLMs, and how do you understand context and differentiate things based on that. So as ChatGPT came out, then GPT-4 and the newer versions of transformer models, not just the GPT-4 models. There are other models from, for example, Anthropic's Claude, and then there are the Gemini models. There are smaller large language models as well. So we tapped into that technology to be able to understand content and do a few things. One is being able to understand what claims exist in any sort of pre-approved documents. Those claims become the source of truth for any new content that can be generated. So once the new content is generated, the other part of it is how do you, from an operational standpoint, make it easy for someone who's reviewing that document to be able to fact check things. So being able to provide automatically references and annotations for anything that looks like a claim. And claims can be many things. Claims can be efficacy related. Claims can be safety related. We have identified about 13, 14 different types of claims that are very common in practice. And GenAI can now very quickly look at those documents, understand and extract those claims, rewrite those claims in a very human readable form. And then also the next step is, when any new documents are uploaded, it can identify those types of claims, even though they're written in a different format, they're written in different language. But if it matches the claim in some way, it will make that connection, and it will automatically do the annotations and references for those. And that's the work that we're doing with Modus Create currently. So not only is it a huge time savings, but there's also an accuracy factor to it as well. So when humans are working, and as you know, anytime there is manual task, a lot of manual work, humans are also prone to making mistakes. AI or GenAI is not perfect, but it also doesn't get tired, right? So we can provide a lot of data, we can redo things. It's a very scalable process. We can change up a prompt, for example, if needed, and run it again on the entire data set, and it will do it again. It won't really complain about being tired, which is, one of the big differences in how we actually look at things. And that's something that I also want to touch upon. Not only is it an efficiency play, we're able to now rethink the overall process. Right? So because we're using AI in a certain way, some of the old processes that we had, we're thinking about them and asking ourselves, does it really make sense? Should we have some other different process? When it comes to content creation, because we have all of these pre-approved claims that are very quickly and easily generated, can we actually use those claims repository now and generate new content by using GenAI? So overall, of course, there's a huge amount of efficiency. There are a lot of other types of gains as well from an accuracy standpoint. Now that said, you still need human oversight for all of this. It cannot be all just AI and creating claims and also providing annotations or approving documents. You still need human oversight to do it. It is very much an assistant to the human who does that kind of work. But it is meant to make it much faster for the human to review the documents and do the work that they're doing. So overall, the opportunity with this from a content delivery standpoint, content approval standpoint, we're already seeing huge improvement compared to the previous processes, and huge amount of efficiency gains as well.
And Greg, from the Modus perspective, what stood out about this engagement for you?
Yeah, this one's really exciting with us, and this one's really exciting for us. We're so glad to be partnering with Eversana on this one because it's such a good example of automation using AI. I don't want to repeat everything Abid just told you because I think he did a great job of explaining the value that it's providing, but generally this is a highly scalable tool that they've got that's going to, as we understand it, significantly reduce the manual labor that's required to do this job, yet it's still keeping a human in the loop. And as we understand, the business impact that's going to come is coming directly from accelerating this whole content approval process for medical claims. So it's easy to associate the gains that you're getting here with real business value. Yeah, this is a great example for us, and one that we're excited to be working on with Eversana.
Thanks so much. We have a few minutes left in our session today. We've been talking with Greg Sterndale with Modus Create, Abid Rahman with Eversana, and of course, Namita Limai with IDC, our analyst on the panel. Panelists, we have just a couple minutes left, but I did want to leave on a note for our audience of some of the proactive steps that IT leaders in life science, or business leaders in life sciences for that matter, can take to accelerate their AI journey. And Namita, let's start with you. What can they do to accelerate the journey?
Thanks, Jim. I think that's the million-dollar question that the whole industry is asking right now. I mean, as an advisor, as an analyst, I think that's the topic of discussion of the majority of the calls that I have from both sides, both from the IT providers as well as actually from the pharma biotech companies as well. And I think when you're looking at what can companies do, I think the first thing that IT companies should do is decide where they want to play. So, the standard things, if you look at, you're looking at migrations, you're looking at app modernization or data transformation, data integration journeys. But where in the AI narrative specifically do they want to play? I think it's important to carve that out very clearly so that customers can define whom they want to partner with and why. Otherwise, you're kind of diluting what you have to offer. Building out verticalized skills and solutions is, again, very critical. Life sciences is a very domain-specific industry, and to build a capability as well as solutions that are very specific to this industry, I think is another critical piece. Building up an ecosystem of partnerships. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I think AI is not just a one-man show. Can you bring the different pieces together? For example, whether you're talking of real world data, whether you're talking of synthetic data, which is becoming increasingly important, or the different pieces that come together about it. Bringing data security and privacy into the narrative is a huge component. One simple thing that I'll say, it's a no-brainer, but I think it's important. Don't overpromise, otherwise you're going to pay for it. I think everyone's out promising the moon right now. Bring in the strategy piece along with the technology, enterprise-wide implementation, use case prioritization, building out AI platforms, model selection. I think the industry is asking these questions, and if you can actually provide that guidance, even change management, I think that becomes a huge differentiator. Be careful about how you articulate your value proposition. As they say, whenever you have a good idea, everyone else has another idea. So make sure you're calling out your value prop very carefully. And I think finally, I would say it's about trust. Make sure you're building that trust by building solutions that are transparent, explainable. It's really about patients' lives here. So whatever your priority may be, building that trust and explainability into your solutions is going to be extremely critical.
Great points, Namita. Thanks so much. Abid Rahman, I'd love to get your insights here. What would you tell your peers? What are some critical next steps they can take to accelerate their AI journey?
Yeah, and I think Namita touched on many of them. So the way I look at it, first of all, AI is not an optional thing that we may or may not look at, right? So it is critically important that we need to strategically invest in AI. And it also has to be all the way from the top. It cannot be something that we just do a POC within a certain group. It has to come all the way from the top in any organization. And there has to be some goals associated with it as well. One of the things to show that this is actually a real thing and it can help solve challenges and there's some quick wins, it's to look at high impact solutions, but things that are easier to do, right? So let's address those first. And I go into and talk to a lot of our clients and talk about what are some of those different things. And more often than not, I think people already kind of know, they have it in their mind, what are some of those high impact ideas that AI can help solve. But the other thing as well is sometimes, because in Gen AI, especially these days, it's looked at a hammer, like a very large hammer. And oftentimes, no matter what the problem is, everyone wants to see if there's a Gen AI type solution for it. So it's important that we don't get into that trap. It's important to also look at, is this the right solution that AI, or right challenge that AI should be solving? Not every problem requires an AI solution or a Gen AI solution. So sometimes when we try to do that and it doesn't provide the right, solution, or it doesn't, the investment does not pay off in the right way, it gives AI a wrong name, or and that's not necessarily AI's problem. It's choosing the wrong use case sometimes, and it's very critical that we find the right use case. The other thing as well is, there are a lot of discussions around copyright, or their legal challenges, compliance challenges. It's important that we bring in the compliance and the legal teams into the mix early on when we're talking about the use cases, right? So we get there, and we shouldn't bring them in a situation where it seems like a roadblock from a compliance legal standpoint. They are partners in this overall AI journey, and so that's sort of a team that includes the right practitioner, the AI practitioners, the business leaders who we are solving the challenges for, as well as the legal and compliance team. And the other part is about being flexible, right? So the space, especially Gen AI space, is moving very fast. Every week almost, there are some new announcements that we hear from the big AI companies, whether it's OpenAI or Anthropic or Google or others. So there's new development is happening, and we have to be very open-minded about what this space looks like. It is nowhere near a point where everything is kind of stable and in one place, and nothing's going to shift and move next month, next 2 months, next year. We don't quite know exactly where things are going to be. So we have to be flexible about choosing the right technologies, understanding that things that we're building now might not be as relevant or might have to change again in a few months because of some new functionality now that's available through one of these solutions. So, but also, finding the right partners that can also be flexible with us as well and can keep up with the technology. I think that's critical as well.
Thanks so much, Abid. I'm going to pass the mic over to Greg Sterndale with Modus Create for your final thoughts. Greg, the next steps IT and business leaders can take to accelerate that journey.
Yeah, that's a good question. A handful of things come to mind. I guess in no particular order here. I think business leaders should be educating themselves by engaging their industry experts maybe with the cloud providers that they are partnered with. They're great resources. Also, engaging trusted consulting experts that have relevant experience. It's a great way to learn. Next, I'd say when business leaders are prioritizing their initiatives for the next year, they should be identifying those initiatives or the fields of play, I guess, with problems that are well suited for AI That goes back to what Abid was saying. Don't try and use a giant hammer for everything. Find those problems that are well suited, and then plan a proof of concept and a proof of economics. We haven't talked about it a lot here today, but the cost of inference here is real and it's high. And you need to make sure that the things that you're implementing with AI are viable economically. Another thing that comes to mind, business leaders should be looking to beg, borrow, and or buy data from partners, from clients, and third parties. That will allow them to be training models unique to their business and industry. I think folks should be taking advantage of cloud providers' generous funding opportunities right now that exist specifically for AI and POCs and scaled implementations alike. So they should talk with their cloud provider partners about that. To echo what both of my panel colleagues here have said, I think ensuring that what you're implementing directly impacts the business is paramount. You want to make sure that the economics here are clear and demonstrable for whatever you're building. And that's not unique to AI endeavors. That's really any kind of innovation or transformation. And lastly, thing that comes to mind is putting in place a proper governance model as your organization is adopting AI more and more. The job of that governance model is really to ensure that your AI systems are developed and deployed and maintained responsibly, ethically, in compliance, and in alignment with your company's strategic goals.
Thanks, Greg. Yes, so important. Unfortunately, panelists, that takes us to the end of our time for this session. We've been chatting with Greg Sterndale with Modus Create, Abid Rahman, that is, with Eversana, and of course, Namita Lamai with IDC. Thanks to you all for your expertise and insights. Of course, a big thanks to everyone who tuned in. Now, for our viewers, a quick reminder. You heard so much information here today. These are the highlights. To do a deep dive into the details on accelerating your AI journey in life sciences or wherever you happen to be on your trade, you can check out that resources section. There you'll find lots of great information that you can download and dive into on your time, share with colleagues, prospects, and clients, that is, to get a really, really good foundational understanding. You can also find out how to reach our sponsor, Modus Create, via that additional resources section. So we do encourage you to reach out, take advantage of those resources to accelerate your journey. And with that, for Modus Create, CIO Marketing Services, Jim Malone saying thanks everyone for tuning in.